The following program contains explicit language and images from law enforcement active shooter training. Viewer discretion is advised.
Back in the 60s and the 70s, my folks, they went to work, I went to school, left the house unlocked. I mean, that was just the way it was.
The duties of a small-town police officer never change.
It's nice to work in a smaller town because you can have the rapport with people and people can trust you.
Patrol the streets, collect the facts, find the crook.
Everybody knows everybody, and everybody's got an opinion on what people do.
Make people feel safe. Nothing's changed.
The level of crime today is different than it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Everything's changed. The technology, public expectations, training requirements.
You are scared to death.
Rules of engagement.
Put the hammer down or you're going to get tased.
The ferocity of the violence.
So when you think it's not going to happen here, it is. We just don't know when.
A changing job in a complex world. That's the reality of the rural sheriff's deputy and the small-town cop.
Every TV show I ever watched lied to me because it was supposed to be fun and exciting. This is the boringest job there is. As a friend of mine said, with 5 minutes of sheer terror.
Carrying 1059 from Scotts Police Department, 1074 for 21 C. Charles.
4 full-time police officers handle law enforcement in Mitchell, Nebraska. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. There are a few part-timers called in on a pinch.
Because you get a lot of them that go, you're just a small town cop. You get that a lot. What they don't understand, everybody goes through the same training. It's all the same training. You deal with the same situations. The only difference between a big city, we're it. We're everything.
The crime rate in surrounding Scotts Bluff County is slightly higher than the state average, but in Mitchell, the number of total crimes, mostly small stuff, is well below 100. The last murder was in 2011.
Night shift, I started at 1600, 4 o'clock. Went out and did 2 written warnings on vehicles with expired plates on the streets.
Every morning, Police Chief Mike Cotent runs through a logbook to see what kept the overnight officer busy.
Had an assist to public about a red Dodge Dakota in the high school parking lot with its headlights on. That was about it for that day.
The chief took over the department in Mitchell about 7 years ago. Before that, he served as a reserve deputy in Scotts Bluff County. Later, in tiny Lyman, Nebraska, he got hired by an old school police captain.
And then he says, well, I'll see you on Thursday. So I come up Thursday evening and he gives me a set of keys and he says, here's your belt and here's a gun and I'm going home.
How much training?
I did not have it. None. There was nothing. I didn't know the radio codes. I didn't, I was really, really shocked.
Off we go.
But we give them the best that we can give. Like tonight, example, we should have another officer on tonight. Well, we don't, so the chief's gotta fill the boots. We know where our troubled spots are. We patrol that area a little more than we do others, but you never know what's going to happen and where it's going to happen. We look for car doors open or vehicles that are not known to be in that area. 200 Central. 1039 T-Tom 770. I have never seen that vehicle around, so. I know just about everybody in town, unless they've just moved in or something of that nature, but I try to make it a point that I get out and visit with people.
What are you doing?
Totally driving the speed limit.
Oh yeah, okay.
No!
Because they're your eyes and they're your ears, and they have a wealth of information that otherwise you wouldn't know about. You guys need to go home, okay? We need to talk to your mom, okay? They just moved in up here.
A new mom in town got a friendly reminder to keep her curious kids away from the railroad tracks. Pulling into the trailer park a few minutes later, the chief waves at a familiar face, sensing something's wrong.
You okay, Tina?
It's been a hard day.
Has it?
Yeah.
So what's been going on?
And at that time she broke down and says, "Oh, my husband Dale, he made comments that the first train missed him, but the second one wouldn't."
Now and I don't know where he's at.
Okay. Is he out walking?
Yeah.
The pickup's there.
Yeah, he's out walking.
Okay.
And I think he's suicidal.
All right. I will look around for Dale, okay? And if I find him, I'll bring him home.
Oh, thank you.
Okay?
The nightly routine gets set aside. The search is on.
I just made contact with 1012, and she's advising that her husband has made some suicidal remarks and that he's off his medications. So we're going to be out looking for this 1012.
We didn't see anybody, so we started going further out, and we went out to the Union Pacific tracks.
We're going to head up to the north and see if maybe he's up in that area.
At that time, the Scotts Bluff County Sheriff's Office became involved.
Hey, we've looked all over. I got Bear out east. Hey,
and also
how you doing?
the Nebraska State Patrol.
Okay. You thought you might have seen that guy?
Everybody started looking in different areas of the county. Ended up, the Nebraska State Patrol found him 3 miles east of Mitchell on County Road G. So finally we arrived.
All he wants to do is walk to Scotts Bluff, buy 4 packs of cigarettes and go home.
Okay.
Went down, talked to Dale. I've known Dale for probably 17, 18 years since I started copping up here in Mitchell. I said, "You're not going to hurt yourself, right?" And he goes, "No." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, Dale, we'll just go down there and we'll get you a couple packs of cigarettes." He said, "Okay." So we drove down to Scotts Bluff. And I think it makes a good public relations that I do something like that, because there may be a time that I may need him for something and he'll remember, well, yeah, you know, he did that for me. You know, he's a good cop.
The city budget may be the best indication that Mitchell supports keeping its own police force. It's 22% of the city's $1 million budget, more than roads or parks or anything else. Voters approved a sales tax increase, in part to maintain local police coverage.
Our guys are busy all the time, and they're efficient, and they do a good job.
There are the things you'd expect from any department. Working radar, the shoplifting and burglary reports, traffic accidents, and security system false alarms.
They were testing the alarms, and well, we know it works.
And one of the biggest things that small town police have to deal with that Scotts Bluff doesn't have to deal with or Lincoln has to deal is nuisance abatement. These poor guys, we are on them all the time on weeds, you know, grass and junk in people's yards. That's not something somebody in Scotts Bluff has to deal with.
We are animal control. We do animal control. We've had a cat problem, but here this last summer it's just exploded. I mean, we've got feral cats all over town. We put our live traps out. We had an incident the other night. One of my officers had to go over because a lady let a cat out of the trap.
You call us. You do not mess with our traps, okay? Because if you do, then you're going to look at charges. Do you understand that? For interference.
Oh, I was looking for that the other day.
Officer Mandy Murphy has been in uniform for 7 years, 4 of those with the Mitchell Police Department.
I like probably the most that every day is something different. Like, it's not just the same thing and sitting in an office all day. I'm constantly challenged by it. I prefer nights just because it's kind of different calls that you respond to than during the day. A lot of our disturbances happen at night. I would say one of our more dangerous calls that we respond to are domestic disturbances. They like us to have more than one officer respond to those, especially because they're a lot of times more dangerous than others.
About 1,600 people call Mitchell home. 1 out of every 4 of the mass shootings in America took place in towns with fewer than 10,000 people. Many of the smallest police departments now recognize schools become targets. In 2016, Nebraska state law required school districts, big and small, to prepare safety plans in partnership with local police.
This drill we're going to do this afternoon helps the teachers know what to do with their kids.
Today when we practice, they want us to do a lockdown, which means that we lock our rooms, okay, we pull our curtains, and we go to the safest place in the room. Where is the safest place, do you think? You guys are sharp. You bet. Over in the corner.
I mean, it's secure. Getting in would probably be easy, but getting in one of the rooms, you're not getting in.
We have 3 doors we gotta lock, so that'd be it.
I guess to me, in the lockdown, the outside doors aren't the priority.
We don't want parents to come in there.
I think it makes it a lot more difficult when the kids are there. Just kind of seeing their reaction, even to a drill, you can tell they're a little unsure. Just thinking about if a real situation would happen, how they would react to that.
Things get a little chaotic, especially if all the kids are out in the hallway and they say lockdown, lockdown, lockdown.
Please lock down right now.
Kids are rushed into the rooms, the doors are closed.
Go ahead, quickly, sit down, quick.
Their lights are off. They're in a certain area of the room, and they will not open those doors until they are given a clear signal, which will come either from myself or the principal.
Okay, can't see him.
We're not going to wait for anybody. That's another post-Columbine thing that went into effect after that. Before that, they would just call the SWAT team. But now they have decided that we need to go in, even if it's just one officer. I think it's something that every officer has to think about when they go into it, is whether or not they'd be able to do that and be able to make that choice if they have to take somebody's life to help save other people.
It's scary that we have to look at active shooter like we do now, because that just tells you the world we're living in. But I think the training, the way we're doing the training, is a step forward.
Columbine changed how officers responded to horrific events like an active shooter. Almost every community that has a police department has a school. And in the last 20 years, people have recognized that if you truly want to hit Americans hard, you hit the school, because everybody cares about the kids. Whatever the reason is, the act is going to require that local department to be prepared.
Only recently did Nebraska's Law Enforcement Training Center require active shooter training for every Nebraska police officer or sheriff's deputy wanting to wear the badge. Some call it active shooter, some call it active killer.
It was traditionally, that was a SWAT call response. You waited for SWAT to show up, and Columbine showed us that's probably needed to be looked at, and that needed to be changed.
Several Nebraska police departments, large and small, have specially trained tactical units on standby, ready to deploy. It takes time to gather those teams. The small-town cops may not have that time to wait.
We're asking law enforcement officers now. City, county, state, doesn't make any difference. The ones that are on the beat are now tasked with more responsibility than has ever occurred in the history of American law enforcement, as far as I'm concerned.
Did you do fire drills when you were in school? How many kids have been killed in a fire in a school in the United States in the last 25 years? I'll answer it for you. None. There are still schools that do not do active shooter-based training. And that number is not zero. We all know that in here.
Officers in training learn how to approach a scene safely and how to analyze the risk going in. Weeks of classroom work and field demonstrations precede the live fire active shooter exercise.
Through the teachings here, we teach them how to aggressively yet safely move towards the sound of gunfire rather than to hold and wait for somebody else with bigger guns and more body armor to come and protect it.
For me, it was an intense training to show how to do something the right way and safely, how your body reacts, how your mind and everything reacts. It was a good learning experience to go through.
Regina Preston arrived from Mitchell, Nebraska, hoping to fill that fourth position on her hometown department.
There you go. Now you are the only insurance policy they've got.
You know, this is what we learned. This is what we did. This is what goes on the street. It's not a movie. It's not a show. It's hard work. It's determination. And you're a target.
They are now tasked with going into a rapidly evolving, very violent situation, and if need be, hunt down and neutralize an aggressive behavior. That's just not typically what police officers do.
So what are your priorities? Your priority needs to be whatever the shooter is doing. That's your priority. Stop the killing is the #1 priority for active shooting.
Once the classroom work is complete, plastic safety pistols are replaced by loaded guns for an intense day of real-time exercises in a vacant office building.
The goal of today is to put them in a scenario we call stress inoculation. We're exposing them to a high-stress situation.
Small groups are thrown into unpredictable scenarios facing gunfire. Weapons filled with non-lethal rounds, simulated ammunition that sting and make an impression on body and mind.
It's a whole different world when there's actual projectiles coming at you. And it's amazing because even being the role player, I get jacked up when they come down the hall.
They never know what they're getting themselves into.
We also ask them, if necessary, to walk past injured or dying people to hunt down that individual.
In a crisis, small-town cops find themselves suddenly thrown together with officers from neighboring cities and counties. Similar training helps an impromptu team deal with the unexpected. There may be a hostage, a suicide threat, an ambush.
When I'm encountering them, you see the pure terror in their face when they round that corner and see somebody with an actual gun that's going to shoot something at them.
Occasionally, teams remained remarkably focused as the chaos of the drill unfolds.
They moved as a trained unison, they moved into position, and if they did things right, the person that was neutralized was the bad guy. If they were hit, they took non-life-threatening wounds because they did the training as they were prescribed to do that. As you saw, the vast majority of them did a great job. They come in, they did it, and there was no hesitation.
Neither one of our hostages got hit. They weren't laying on the floor, so they didn't get hit. That's good. You recognized and processed that information, took out the shooter only.
Some find the intensity disorienting. They forget the drills and the classroom advice.
When you actually put a live firearm, the SINS rounds in on it, you see they get that adrenaline dump.
The adrenaline and the stress is the main cause for most of the years. The stress will cause the mistakes.
There was a lot that caught you off guard. When you get shot at, you're being, you know it's coming, but you're not real sure from where sometimes.
Officer Preston's team started out strong.
So what can we do for you? What's going on?
But negotiations with a freaked out woman using a human shield seem fruitless.
Take that shot, take that shot.
Then a team member deviates from training, stepping into the doorway, unsure if he should use civilians to steady his firearm.
Get real. Real life, you're hold. That was some of the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. You guys were told and told and told. I even demonstrated this. Did I not? For this, it was a hostage situation. She's trying to negotiate, and you're standing up here with your gun on Molden's shoulder, and she's taunting you, and you're still standing there. You kill a hostage, you haven't done shit. That is not how we work that.
It drills into your brain. If they talk sweet and gentle and sensitive, you're going to forget it.
Life's not nice. And if you get yourself shot, how nice is that? If you cause somebody else to get shot, how nice is that? Other than themselves, we are the most harsh critics.
If I ever see you in a scenario like that again, holster your gun and go, well, he got me, I'm out, I will call your agency and I will tell them that you are not ready for this job.
One of the biggest killers of cops is apathy. And, well, it's complacency. It's never going to happen here. And it's never happened here, so it's never going to happen here.
When the legislature set up the state's training center, only about 12% of police officers and sheriff's deputies received any formal training. If a local agency did train, every police chief and sheriff used different methods.
I've been in law enforcement for 35 years, and when I started in law enforcement, it was not an uncommon event to hear people say, yeah, they hired me Tuesday, gave me the keys to the car and a gun and a badge and told me to go drive around. Now, we have gradually gravitated away from that, but it's still possible for people to go out and work for almost a year without having any academy training.
Omaha, Lincoln, and the Nebraska State Patrol all have their own basic training. Every other agency, the smallest departments, send their new officers here. Diversity remains an issue, especially in rural departments. Figures on minority officers aren't available, but training classes rarely match Nebraska's racial and cultural diversity. In towns under 5,000, less than 5% of the sworn police officers are women.
When we're fighting for our weapon, guys, we never stop. Never stop. It's right there for us.
Instructor Randy Webb trained here as a rookie officer with the Grand Island Police Department. She was in class 156. The academy recently graduated class 200. She sees similarities.
I see naive people. You don't realize all the stuff you're going to see. And you don't realize how people can treat each other and how they can treat you. And that just comes with the experience of being on the street.
You want to link up? Yeah.
There is training for the daily routine and training for the extraordinary. Today, it's searching a building for an armed intruder.
We've been taught you can do active shooter situations as a one-person team, going in by yourself and just hunting down where you need to go. But you put yourself in their shoes. Running into a situation where you know somebody is actively shooting people, actively hunting people down, and your confidence level, that adrenaline rush, that fear, it's going to be there.
Drill is quite simple. We put multiple people in different rooms that if you move at an adequate pace, you should be able to see them. And we have them walk the hallway and they call out those that they see.
Contact! Contact!
When they turn around and I ask the rest to step out, they realize they were moving too fast. When they looked left, they should have been looking right. They understand that if they can get help, it's all the best.
So now you have to decide, do I take the speed and get to the end of the hallway, save the people that are being shot, or do I go slow down this hallway to ensure that I find anybody that may be in the room, threat or no threat? What's important now? And that's a decision you have to make. That's the reason that going into this by yourself is such a hard choice.
The stress level, you hear it in their breathing, you hear their voice if they try talking. You visibly see them as they're going through it. It's a huge amount of stress for one person to go through.
Preston, you're up next.
Going in that situation, you don't have a cover officer. You don't have 6 set of eyes in that situation. You have your own 2. So you miss things. It's scary. I'm not going to lie. It is scary. It's a scary thought to think that, it's going to happen in our town.
Put your hands up, let me see them.
Unrealistic or not, it's still an eye-opener. And it was a good training. And to get to the end and see how many vital things you miss.
Bad guy, step out.
Sam. Good grief.
And why do I go in? Because there's lives at stake. There's kids at stake, whether it's a school or a bank, it doesn't matter. That's my job.
The Mitchell Police Department has been shorthanded for almost 4 years. It was a gift to have Officer Preston who lives in town eager to fill the empty position. Recruiting new cops can become a chore.
So if you can develop local talent, it is just gold. I'm just really excited. It's kind of neat to see the Regina Preston story happen here, where she was just a citizen, was wanting to maybe get involved in law enforcement, and then the city went ahead and paid for her education, and now she's got a long-term future here.
I wanted to work in Mitchell. My family's here. My husband and I moved here. So I guess you could say for the last 6 years, our life has been here. The community's grown on me over the past few years, and I like it here. It's like a Mayberry. Everybody knows everybody, and if they don't, they find out who they are.
Officer Regina Preston, Mitchell Police Department.
She'd been on the job for a year. Now certified by the training center, she takes on full responsibilities. It's a proud day, clouded by an unexpected setback.
I broke my foot. I broke the 5th metatarsal in my foot, and it was horrible the day of graduation because I couldn't walk with my class. So that was tough. But I graduated.
I know.
I'm determined, though. I'm determined to get back out there.
It is a huge crisis because it's a fourth of our police department that we just lost, right? And so Mike's going to end up having to work 70 hours, a couple of weeks to cover for a situation like that. So it's a huge deal.
Unable to do street patrol on her own for several weeks, Officer Preston handles administrative duties and, when possible, accompanies Chief Cotant on patrol, testing the skills she learned at the academy.
They do a great job down there. I can't say anything bad about it. But until you're actually out on the streets, it's a whole different thing. I mean, it's like, they tell you how to approach this situation, a certain situation, but yet it may not be the actual way to do it.
Making the rounds, the chief spots a Mitchell resident he knows has his driver's license revoked.
He knows. He knows.
When I see this gentleman, and I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me.
I ain't got any citations with me.
It's a routine stop for a fairly minor offense.
He pulled over without me even turning on the lights.
Even when you're on a first-name basis with the driver, you never know when something may go alarmingly off script. The driver gets a fresh driving while suspended citation. The truck will be towed. Everybody sticks to the script and no problem.
So after that was over, I asked Regina, Officer Preston, I said, critique me. I said, what'd I do?
Okay, what did I do wrong?
Are you asking me to critique you?
Yes, I am.
For my chief to ask me to critique him, it was kind of a prideful moment. I kind of got excited. I'm like, really?
Well, you didn't call it in.
Oh, yeah, that's
You
true.
didn't confirm it. So you got the license. You didn't ask for the license of the passenger when you knew that he was driving under suspension.
See, I'm doing all things wrong. That's a good critique.
You weren't prepared for
No, I wasn't.
any stop.
No, I was not.
And that's one thing that they really pushed learning up at the academy. This is how you need to do it. This is how I expect you to do it. This is where you park. This is when you light them up. This is when you call it out. This is how you approach this. I mean, all these different things. So with me sitting back after getting out of the academy, learning all of this and watching someone else, I can honestly say, that's not right.
But it's a good thing for me to be critiqued. Because I do. I'm human. I miss things, and she was pretty blunt force to me. That gives her, I think, a sense of belonging and that she's sharing her knowledge with me. And I'm looking to the future and down the road after I leave here in about a year and a half, maybe 2, that the city's going to be in good hands.
I just have a front radar so I can catch people coming at me.
A speeding ticket may be the most common way to meet a sheriff's deputy in one of Nebraska's 93 counties.
I try to stay consistent so that way I go into court and say, yep, everybody over 10 and above gets a ticket no matter what. You were under 10 over. How about that? I'll tell you that. Between 5 and 10 over.
There are days even a routine traffic stop takes an unexpected, even dangerous turn. The Law Enforcement Training Center prepares new officers for those days. Might be some guy with an outstanding warrant or a trunk full of pot who figures his car can outrun a deputy sheriff. Off they go barreling down any of the thousands of miles of two-lane blacktop and narrow gravel roads.
Went through driver's ed, but they don't teach you this type of stuff,
The twisty test track behind the training center may be the only practice they get before a real pursuit back in their home county.
A lot of people would look, okay, they're teaching a police officer to go fast. They're teaching a police officer to catch the bad guy faster. Well, it's not all that, in my opinion. I believe they're teaching us to do it in a safe manner, to where we can take a turn, we can accelerate on a straightaway, we can close the gap between ourselves and the pursuing vehicle efficiently, but also safely, so we're not putting ourselves, our partner, the individual suspect that we're chasing in danger, and most importantly, we're not putting either pedestrians and third parties in danger.
After sunset comes a final white-knuckle pursuit before the student officers graduate. Their only friend will be the voice of a dispatcher.
9307, NSP is in the area. Where would you like them to place spikes?
The dirt.
I'm going to need a more specific location than the dirt.
A high-speed chase brings a special kind of terror when somebody's desperate to avoid arrest. Every sheriff in Nebraska knows what it's like listening to the police radio as the chase unfolds.
I am basically responsible for all these kids out here. Once in a while you sit up at night going, yeah, or you hear a call that goes out and you go, well, should I go? And I'm going, well, they're big kids, they can go take care of it. But you second guess yourself and kind of trust in God and their training and their abilities. And
Nels Sorensen is in his 4th term as sheriff in Jefferson County.
I've been in law enforcement. This coming April will be 44 years. We have the confines of Jefferson County on the southern border of Nebraska, butts up against Kansas. Being a sheriff is a unique position. You have a civic duty to do things, you have to answer to the people. I think it's probably the greatest part of law enforcement to be in a small community. You know people, you're a part of the community. I think Jefferson County, not everybody likes us, but overall we're well accepted in the community.
Maybe there isn't a typical rural sheriff's department in Nebraska, but Jefferson County would be a candidate. Another would be Butler County to the north, where farmland starts to flatten out, accommodating the Platte River. Marcus Siebken worked as a deputy when the sheriff, a close friend, passed away. Siebken earned enough votes in the 2014 election to keep his job.
I was 30 years old. I was a 30-year-old sheriff, one of the youngest sheriffs in the state. I didn't get into law enforcement to be an administrator as a sheriff when I was 30 years old. I went into law enforcement to, provide safety for wherever I'm working. The farming community, good people. When I arrived here in 2009, it's almost like I was accepted right away, which made me want to stay here. People come to my house, my phone goes off nonstop, so it's a 24-hour job. My birthday this year, I got called out. We had a fatality accident involving a 15-year-old girl, so that's how I spent my birthday, was telling her mother that her daughter wasn't going to come home that night. Does it take a mental anguish on somebody after the fact? Absolutely. But like I said, you get into the job knowing that that's going to happen someday. We have a 10-man department, 11 with me. So if your population is decreasing, people are going to come, why do we need this many deputies if we don't have this many people in the community? As far as the other small towns around in Butler County, you're losing numbers. The towns are getting smaller.
Since the 1970s in central Nebraska, people drifted away from the rural counties. Small towns shut down police departments, turning over law enforcement to the county sheriff.
There's 13 communities in Butler County, range from 100 people to close to 1,000 people. We have 3 contracted towns within the sheriff's office, David City, which is our main contract, Bellwood, and Rising City.
In Butler County, David City gave up its 4 officers, signing a contract with the sheriff to keep the peace.
Hey, make sure you mow this, okay, Laura? Each city contracts with the sheriff's office for so much patrol time in their community. That it would include doing ordinances and stuff like cars and the weeds and stuff. So we have to do so many hours a day in those contract towns to meet those hours. I'm not going to disturb the dogs anymore.
We've been one of the 10 most depleting counties in the state for several cycles. Oh, it's terrible. Our population is going down, but our crime rate is going up.
The population of Fairbury, the largest town in Jefferson County, dropped 6% in 10 years. Tax revenue dropped as well. The city debated whether it was just too expensive to pay for its own police force.
It seems like we're on this trend of cutting this community down to just a bare bones.
Legitimate concerns mixed with rumor fueled concerns about whether Fairbury could remain a safe place to live.
I don't like seeing the whole community freaking out about whether their children are going to be safe or whether they're going to have to go purchase, handguns and mace and everything like that.
Contracting with the county sheriff seemed the only way out.
The people are going to be there, they're going to have the backup, they're going to have the help that they need.
So there will no longer be a Fairbury Police Department. This year, they've finally come to the conclusion that the numbers that I can give them, they'll get the same quality of law enforcement they have and save them some money. And we're going to be doing it with the same number of people. The only thing, they'll be wearing brown uniforms instead of blue. Many grants through the Highway Safety Office.
Sheriffs run county jails. There are 67 around the state. The smallest counties don't always have enough arrests to justify the cost, so they pay rent for cell space in counties where there are empty beds.
And doing that now, our jail is full 85% of the time now with our inmates and a couple other counties' inmates. And it's created several hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue for Butler County.
A county jail can tell you a lot about the amount of crime and the type of crime.
Drug crimes, possession of controlled substances, those are our big ones.
We have a big problem with drugs, and that's been that way since I've been here.
Get out! Let me see your hands! Let me see your hands!
You get your burglaries and your other things, but a lot of those are related to drugs in and of themselves. You probably wouldn't have that burglary if it hadn't been for drugs. People need to fuel their habit. Mostly what we see is methamphetamine, marijuana. Started to see an upsurge in heroin, and fentanyl, things like that. Prescription drugs are big too. We see a lot of abuse of that.
And this is a field test. Turn blue. Color means it's positive test for methamphetamine.
Most of these people aren't bad people, they're just addicts and they need help. And a lot of our calls like that, that's what we're dealing with. We're not dealing mainly with the Mexican mafia or anything like that, we're just dealing with people who have a substance abuse problem and they need help.
We've served a lot of search warrants here in the last year, trying to clean things up. We're very proactive at trying to curb this, and it's one of those things that's kind of like the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dike. He only has so many fingers, and we're the line between, you might say, good and evil, because drugs are definitely evil. Tears families apart, and it's a sad situation.
Yep, Zeets.
There is evidence drug smugglers stay busy moving product across the network of rural highways and back roads.
I think a lot of counties are taking a stance on, good luck going through Nebraska because we've got a lot of trained officers on the criminal and drug interdiction here.
Interstate 80, cutting through rural counties, earned its reputation as a pipeline for cars and trucks moving tons of illegal drugs across Nebraska.
I think it's everywhere, with Colorado legalizing marijuana. It's not hard to do a traffic stop, here in David City or on Highway 92 or 15 where it's a simple marijuana infraction stop and a cite and release. You almost see that daily.
It doesn't matter to me whether you're in a big city or a small town. Crime still happens and you still need those same investigative tools. This is going to be our GPS system that we use, basically.
From accessing arrest record databases to filling out reports in the field, the technology linking all Nebraska law enforcement became an expensive necessity for small departments with limited resources.
It's a big difference. Technology has come a long, long way.
Tracking devices in patrol cars all over Nebraska transmit their locations to dispatchers across the state and on cruiser dashboards in the field.
It really helps being able to tell where everyone else is if you were to need help.
Half the police departments in the United States employ body cameras. Officers in the most remote settings can be constantly monitored by technology, demanding new levels of accountability.
At the very least, we're on microphone where you can hear everything we're saying and doing. And then other than that, we're on camera just about every time we make contact with an individual as well.
He's armed with a hammer. Justin, can I talk to you real quick? Can you put the hammer down? Put the hammer down, please. Justin, put the hammer down. Put the hammer down. Put the hammer down or you're going to get tased. Put it down. Step away from it. What's going on, man? Get your hands out of your pocket.
Police-worn body cameras catch good conduct and mistakes, threatening behavior, and important details.
The agencies that are throwing a fit about them, why? It's just recording what we do every day. If you're doing things the way you should be, it shouldn't be an issue.
We do. It's certainly not a warning. It's an awareness. Hey, don't do this because you might be caught on camera. That's not the way it is at all. We just remind them that it's a different society they're policing in now. We've always lived in glass houses. Trust me, law enforcement always has.
You're just being detained, man. Because you have that hammer and you weren't putting it down.
That'll go in front of the courts, and they'll be able to see this guy, how he was acting, show the mental health problems that he's having.
10-4, can you contact Crisis Center, see if they have a bed available, the one in Lincoln, please?
Mental health issues are huge now compared to what they were, 10 years ago.
The Crisis Center, be advised they do have a bed open at this time.
I feel that there's been a huge uptick in it. Close to a couple times a week, we're dealing with some sort of mental health case. If we're taking somebody into protective care or contacting a mental health professor and having them speak with them. And
Sheriff Siebken got a call from a woman concerned about her son Jesse. A couple of years ago, his meth addiction ended in a prison term. Since his release, his diagnosed schizoaffective disorder only worsened.
And we've been dealing with him for the last 2 years. And it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle for his family. I know his mother's taken it very hard.
He was in a manic episode outside of his home, screaming at a tree.
A few years ago, a small-town cop would not have gotten any professional guidance on how to cope with someone appearing to be mentally ill.
Dealing with mentally ill is a whole different conundrum that we'd had in the past. We didn't understand it, to be honest with you. And I think now there's so much awareness on mental illness. If we can minimize those violent interactions between law enforcement and mentally ill and get them the help that they need, that's truly what the mission of helping people is all about.
But I just don't want you to put your hands in your pocket, okay?
No, I can put my hands in my pocket anytime.
Well, I don't know what you have in there.
Why then?
Do you have any weapons?
It don't matter if I did or not.
It does matter.
The deputies respond just as they've been trained. Take things slow, lower your voice, treat it as a mental health issue rather than a criminal complaint.
We don't know why they're not listening. We don't know why they're not following commands. And there could be a legit reason why they're not doing all that. And if controlling the situation means putting your hands on somebody, you put your hands on somebody.
Keep your hands, okay.
Whoa, No, what did I do?
That's
Well,
like the fourth
no,
time
I
I've asked
didn't.
you.
Hey, that's
This is not an unusual occurrence in rural counties.
Hi, are you mom?
Families with mentally ill relatives can have frequent visits with the local cops.
But he sees things and he fights for his life, and there's
So like he'll have like an actual fight, just
Yes.
nobody there.
there's nobody there.
Butler County, like most small counties in Nebraska, has no mental health specialists, much less beds available in area hospitals.
I'm trying to find someplace else, but I have no money. He has no insurance, nothing.
In a case like this, the deputies must decide if Jesse is a danger to himself or others.
You burned yourself, didn't you?
There ain't nothing wrong.
Okay, what about your chest?
There is nothing wrong with me, though. No, this is a real saddle. What's wrong with that?
So
What's
you
wrong?
burned your chest right there?
How long is it? That ain't burns. That ain't burns. That's religious stuff.
That's religious
Yeah,
stuff?
it's
Okay.
Reason enough to request he be placed in emergency protective custody. It's a long 1-hour drive to the crisis center in Lincoln.
It'd be great if every community had a mental health practitioner that when somebody was experiencing a crisis, we could call them in and say, hey, we've got them safe right now. Now you take them. Well, anymore, our police officers on the street are having to try to do initial assessments to see what kind of a crisis is this person experiencing, and do we have the resources?
At one time, Nebraska had regional mental health care centers to house the most challenging cases. The state repurposed those facilities, shifting most of the long-term care responsibilities back to the families.
Honey, I need you to get out. No,
I'll be
you
okay,
need
Mom.
help.
I was coming home.
No.
Disturbance calls to local law enforcement increased.
Since they closed down the regional centers here 15 years ago or such, their beds are at a premium.
At the Jefferson County Jail, deputies brought in a man growling and shouting obscenities every waking minute.
Those hours on end.
A judge ordered him sent to the regional center.
He is number 30 on the list of when a bed comes available, so there's 29 people ahead of him waiting for a bed at the regional center. So we could have him for a month, 2 months, 4 months.
The mental illness calls, the family in crisis, the potential suicide. Anyone in law enforcement who sticks with the job comes to understand a basic truth about this kind of work.
When you're a cop out here, you have to learn how to talk to people. Your greatest weapon is your mouth, and it'll keep you out of a lot of fights and dangerous situations. It'll calm things down. It'll help you stay alive out here.
I think a lot of it is just knowing how to talk to people, to talk them down. If you can talk to them and treat them the way that you would want to be treated, then that gets you a lot.
I've always said I've talked more people to jail than I've fought to jail.
Most cops, when they first get in this job, all of us would get that mentality is we're going to save people and we're going to go arrest all the bad guys and take everybody to jail that needs to go to jail. And there's a certain point where you realize that doesn't always work. You can't take everybody to jail.
Local agencies hire their own police officers. Those recruits train at the Law Enforcement Training Center.
The challenge we face right now, typically we have a class of 50. We only have 40 because agencies are having difficulty finding applicants who meet those standards who want to do this job.
Rural sheriffs and small-town police departments face fierce competition for new recruits and experienced officers.
When I was hired, there were like 2,000 applicants for the 41 jobs that I had. Now, agencies are having a very difficult time just finding quality applicants to come in.
As Butler County tried to fill 2 vacant deputy sheriff positions, other agencies had 99 open jobs for uniformed officers.
That's that. And I can shut it off. It's 5 seconds, and it's a long 5 seconds.
It's a very long 5 seconds.
It's career night at David City High School.
We got a lot of cool stuff. We have a lot of technology.
Getting a small-town kid interested in becoming a small-town cop can become the best kind of recruiting.
With other agencies being closer to Lincoln and Omaha, that's kind of, for the younger generation, that's kind of where they want to work. Being out in rural Butler County, it's hard to find somebody to, come and stay and work here. Take a brochure. Always keep us in mind, all right?
All right. Average salary for a sworn officer in central Nebraska runs about $50,000 a year. They can earn $13,000 more by moving to Omaha. That salary is set by county boards and city councils. They also decide how many officers are on the street every time they pass an annual budget.
County board has given me permission to hire a single school resource officer.
Every citizen has an opinion about public safety. At election time, they get the say on what type of police protection they want. 2018 was one of those years. In Mitchell, Nebraska, there were 3 candidates for mayor.
Unfortunately, I'd say politics stink. They just do.
Every now and then somebody gets fired up about shutting down the police department or cutting the budget or changing who's in charge.
So if this year, when the new mayor or whoever it is going to be mayor decides not to appoint me as the police chief, I'm done. I don't have a job.
Mitchell's incumbent mayor wasn't reelected. There's no sign from the new mayor, Chief Cotent, needs to worry about keeping his job. In Jefferson County, Nell Sorensen ran unopposed again. He's sheriff for another 4 years.
A little over 3,000 elected sheriffs in the United States. We're a pretty small group. Everybody has that responsibility to the electorate that, you know, you're doing your job, and if you're not doing your job, then you're not going to be doing it much longer.
The election for sheriff in Butler County took an unexpected turn. After 6 years in office, Marcus Siebken found himself running against 2 opponents.
Obviously, the whole county looks at the sheriff, and it's very hard, just for me personally, because I hate failure. So if I fail, I feel like I've failed the whole area of Butler County, and I've let every citizen down.
What does failure mean in this case?
Still trying to figure that out.
Your crime rate hasn't gone up.
No. But like I said, I take every comment, criticism to heart. And that's been the hardest thing for me since I've been sheriff, is because I perceive when I go out in the public, like, you know, my skin is thick and nothing's gonna hurt me. But, you know, underneath this uniform, this has been a hard 4 years, for sure.
Butler County voters were restless. During Siebken's term, arrests were up in the county, but there were complaints before the election about locals getting too many speeding tickets and DUIs.
You know, being in a small community, a lot of people do expect, you know, the good old boy system yet, and expect a favor here and there. And I always said, if I lose an election because I did the right thing, then so be it. You know, that's not who I am. We treat everybody fair, and we're not going to hide anything from anybody.
Marcus Siebken lost the election. He's since taken a better paying job outside of law enforcement.
If you're making everybody happy, I've always said you're not doing your job, so there's somebody not going to be happy with you. I think the big thing is that you're answerable to the public. I think that's what America's all about.
Elections, recruiting, changes in the job. All of that is in the background on graduation day at the Law Enforcement Training Center. Eagerness and apprehension fills the room. Families born of generations of law enforcement officers gather around the rookies.
Did your dad ever sit you down and say, do you really want to do this?
A couple times, yeah.
Tell me about that conversation.
Well, I guess you could say I'm stubborn and just didn't listen, but...
A successful graduate is somebody who recognizes that you have to have compassion for your fellow human being, whether it's a suspect or a victim.
Deputy Zach Kramer, Lincoln County Sheriff's Office.
The successful graduate, even though they walk across that stage and get that packet with their diploma, realizes, I don't know anything yet, I got to keep learning.
Be aware that you have chosen a very dangerous career. At some point, someone is going to try to hurt you or kill you. Keep that in mind every day, and keep in mind that you will win. You never lose.
A successful graduate is somebody who recognizes that they are entering a profession which is noble and honorable, that they have to have that integrity throughout their career. Once they lose that integrity, they should go sell shoes or something.
Once all the certificates are issued, they turn to the audience and deliver the Academy's oath.
Honor, integrity, and respect are never betrayed.
Within days, they are on full duty, many serving in counties and towns with populations smaller than single neighborhoods in Omaha. Out on the Panhandle, Officer Preston brought the Mitchell Police Department back to full strength.
My family never discouraged me from doing something that I felt like I wanted to do, and I'm not going to discourage somebody else from doing it. It's scary. The times are getting even more scarier, going through the training and being told things that we were told and doing what we did, and it is scary. I think if you have a heart for people to do your job and to uphold the law, then I think it's okay. I think you'll be fine.
You gotta know what you gotta know, Steve!
It's nice to work in a smaller town because you can have the rapport with people and people can trust you and know that they don't have to worry so much during the day. I love it here. I don't want to work in a big city. I like it here.